The opinions expressed here are exclusively those of CG Sense. No brand affiliations, free products, or affiliate marketing are associated with this video.
For a week straight, I put on 4 sprays of Parfums de Marly Haltane. I did 2 to the chest, 1 to each wrist. These Parfums de Marly atomizers, they're actually pretty strong. So some would say like 4 sprays is over spraying, but I feel like this fragrance is pretty pleasant, pretty easygoing, pretty crowd pleasing. I'm gonna get into, this is gonna be a pretty deep video on Haltane, because I'm sure some people are just like grossed out by the fact that I wore this for a week straight with 4 sprays, but I actually really like Haltane. Okay, so this video is gonna be my opinion on the fragrance. It's gonna be pretty balanced. I'm not as strongly for Haltane as I was in the past, but I still think of it as a really good fragrance. It's also gonna address a lot of the niche community and them being disgusted by this stuff, like the deep niche, and they think that Haltane is just the epitome of evil. I tell people this is like fragrance snob repellent. 2 sprays a day will keep the snobs away. For some reason, for whatever reason, they can't stand Haltane. So I'm going to address my opinion on that. So the opening of this fragrance, it actually is really it's really nice. Like, it's soapy wood. Like, if you were to just break it down and keep it simple, because how much can you communicate through a camera anyways? Soapy wood, and it's nice. It's done really well. To be more specific, I would say the soapiness of this kind of gives me a pine needle vibe. So you could think of like pine soap. If you were to pick up some soap, then it's not Irish Spring. It's more would be like Pine Spring. It has kind of like a piney, fresh thing going for it. It's that type of soap. The woods, it's actually really light and bright. So we're not talking like a resinous dark wood here. It's just a woody tone to this soapiness. And with that, there's a saffron sweetness going on. And it's hard to explain what that saffron sweetness smells like. I've heard people say it smells like Smarties candies. I could kind of relate to that. If you've ever smelt Baccarat Rouge and you can tell there's something that makes Baccarat Rouge sweet, that's what the sweetness kind of reminds me of. But it's not as sweet as Baccarat Rouge. It's way toned down. But I do feel like you can make a connection from this to Baccarat Rouge just for that sweetness being there. But to keep it simple and summarize the overall scent profile of this, just think pine soapy soap, pine needle soap with like a nice fresh wood and a bit of sweetness. Now when it opens up on that first initial spray, one of the things that I get from this that I really don't get from many Western fragrances is I get an accent of actual oud. That's very rare. Usually oud is like a buzzword, and they say oud because it's an ancient material that's worth more than gold, and they want to sell as much product as possible. But they also know that the actual smell of oud, synthetic or real, is very polarizing to a Western nose, because most people haven't really actually been exposed to oud. And to a lot of people, it could come across barnyardy. And when they say fecal, they mean like animal fecal. So that if you're at like a petting zoo and you get that smell, I say barnyard, but some people say crap, because that's probably where the smell is actually coming from. So a lot of these Western brands don't even put a synthetic interpretation of oud in it. They just use it as a buzzword to sell product. What I like about Haltane is it does have a little bit of that oud accent for real. Like, I actually do get a bit of the barnyardiness, but it's played very well in Haltane. In other words, I feel like it's very accessible to somebody who's never been exposed to oud before. I think it's my opinion, and this is just what my nose gets, is it's a synthetic take on oud. Could be real, could be not. I'm not here to say this or that, but it is, to me, a bit synthetic compared to some of the other ouds I've smelled. But it's also like super accessible. If you said the most accessible way to be exposed to what actual oud smells like, I would probably go for Haltane. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is you got that pine needle soap, you got that clean wood going, you got a bit of that sweetness, and in the opening only, I get a bit of that kind of barnyardy smell. Now, this doesn't last very long. We get into the dry down and that goes away, but it is one of the things about Haltane that I do appreciate, and I feel like the opening of Haltane is my favorite part of the fragrance, because it just feels like it has the most going on. When we get into the first hour and a half of the fragrance, really the only thing that changes for me is that barnyardiness gets wiped out. after about 10, 15 minutes, it really goes into the background. I believe that those things are still there influencing the scent, but it's like I don't detect them. It's more like they're complementing the scent in general. It's giving it a bit more of a manly feel. But anyways, but in that first hour and a half, I'm really more left with the soapiness of it and the clean wood and the sweetness. Now, between an hour and a half and 3 hours, about roughly, there's a pretty sharp drop off of the soapy freshness of this. It happens pretty fast. It's gradient, like it's going down as a transition, but because it happens in an hour and a half, it's something that just feels like it happens pretty fast and pretty early on into the overall lifespan of this fragrance. And what this transitional stage for me is the soapiness just dies off. It starts dying off. And I'm left with more of the sweetness of this in the wood. And that's what plays out for the rest of the lifespan of this fragrance. So between 3 hours and 12 hours, I'm kind of left with almost like a sweet wood. And in this stage, I don't really like the fragrance as much. I don't really like that sweet wood smell. And the problem with it is the further I get along, the more the synthetic nature of this fragrance starts getting exposed. Synthetic is a really broad term. I don't want to go into different topics, but what I'm saying is I'm left with something that is a bit more reminiscent of something like Pine Sol. Now, obviously, it doesn't smell that synthetic like Pine Sol or like a carpet cleaner or like a room spray. Not at all. But it is like one of those things that it smells more synthetic than it did in the first hour and a half for sure. And because there is such a sudden drop off and it lasts for such a long time, it's one of those things that this fragrance just feels like it falls flat at a point. Almost like it starts off like a really ice cold carbonated soda on a hot day, and then it starts to lose carbonation pretty fast, and it starts to become more room temperature, and it's still nice, don't get me wrong, but it's like you do feel the drop off from what it was in the beginning. Almost as if you left a soda out for an hour and a half and you went back and drank it, you would feel the drop off from what it was when you first opened it. Like, that's one analogy I could use. So it's not bad. It's just, it's pretty different in contrast to what it was. I'm not really that upset with it. That goes on for like a long time. Like, this fragrance lasts forever on skin and even longer on clothes. On clothes, it's one of those ones that it's hard to wash off. And that's one of the things I don't like about the scent of Haltane. Is it just, I get like the staying power is cool. And I feel like one of my theories is that these brands put in synthetic aroma chemicals to give it like really good staying power because they feel like that will impress the average consumer. That, wow, I smell it on my clothes 3 days later. And I bet it does. And I bet that does help drive sales. But for me, I find it a little bit obnoxious, like when something has that much staying power. It's like it gets a little bit irritating. And what stays for like 3 days is almost like a synthetic wood sweet smell. It's not something that I find particularly unpleasant or pleasant, but it's just one of those things that I get tired of. And I'm like, dude, I don't want this to stay on my clothes forever. So how is my opinion of Haltane now compared to what it was in the past? I used to think this was like a Grell fragrance. I thought it was like the Trinity, like a really good release. I thought it was amazing, and I still think it's great. But am I as warm to it as I was? No. It's like, if you asked me to 1 to 10 Haltane like a year ago, I probably would have gave it a 9.5. If you asked me to 1 to 10 it now, I would probably give it like an 8.5. Why did it lose a point? It's just one of those scents that like I kind of just, the more I got exposed to it, the more I got bored of it. And I didn't really know why I was getting bored of it until I took some time to really analyze my feelings behind it, spend time with it. And the reason I got bored of it is exactly like I said in the scent video. I feel like it's a fragrance that starts really amazing. And every day that I put it on this week, whenever I sprayed it on, I was like, damn, I forgot how good it is. But it is also one of those ones that falls flat for me. And when it falls flat, it kind of stays flat for a really long time. And I'm like, damn, like at hour 10, I'm like, I could have put something else on today. You know, and I'm one of those types that I like to put on one fragrance, go to work, and then in the evening put on something else. And this just really restricted my ability to do that because of how long it would last. And I feel like it gets dull at a point. So it's like, yeah, I still get like an hour and a half of this amazing opening, really good intro, really good thing. And I'm like, man, I love this stuff. but then I'm stuck with like 10 hours of kind of like a sweet woody smell. It's not bad, but it's not really necessarily super pleasant either. It's kind of in this mid-range kind of thing. And I think the exposure to that scent and associating it with Haltane over multiple wears over a long period of time just made me start feeling more dull about the fragrance. But I still think it's a great fragrance. It's one of those ones that I feel confident when I put this on. Like, I feel like I'm wearing something very pleasant. It's also pretty fresh, especially for a woody fragrance. Like, I feel like I could pull this off in anything but high heat. I don't think this is cold weather restrictive. I think it's light. Like, it really makes me think of like a sports jacket. Like, it just feels like something that has a classy vibe to it, but it's also workable in so many situations. I think Haltane is actually like a good fragrance, and I enjoyed wearing it for the week. Now, I want to get into this because I never really watched fragrance content in the past, but lately I've been getting into watching more fragrance content, specifically watching the YouTubers who are into vintage, Rojas, Frederic Malls, Amouage, and the ones that like just basically think Parfum de Marly is like a trash house with nothing but garbage. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying that Haltane is disgusting, and I was pointing out to him the irony of it is he wears Frederic Malle the night, and to a lot of people for a while this smells like blue cheese coming out of the butthole of an ox. And also 100 mil of this is like $2,000. And I can almost guarantee you, if you did a street interview test, Haltane versus the night, Haltane's gonna destroy it. If I walked up to a person and say, hey, smell this, and I sprayed the night and handed it to them, I would feel like I'm putting myself in danger because they're gonna think I just sprayed it with cow dung. You know what I mean? Like, I know that Haltane would win, absolutely win. So it feels like there's this bit of detachment from a reality from these people. Another one that they praise as a grail would be vintage Koros. This is Sanofi era, and this smells like urine, like it does. If you were to like go in a place where a bunch of people have been peeing on the ground, like that happens a lot in California. Like, I'll let you know that, especially Los Angeles, where you get that urine smell. That's what Koros smells like. So I think it's really funny that you got like this group of people on the internet that are spraying themselves with something that smells like urine and something that smells like cow dung that is grossly expensive, yet they're saying this is disgusting. So like, I'm in this weird category where I can appreciate something like the night and something like Haltane. That's where I'm at. Like, I wear the night and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love this fragrance. I wear it for myself. I enjoy it. It's very complex. It's more nuanced than something like Haltane. But at the same time, bro, it's like this retails for $1,300. This you can get on discounters for $200. Like, I don't wear them for the same reason. I can appreciate the pros and cons of both, but it's something you should be aware of. Like, I feel like people glaze Haltane and they don't really give a voice to the other side. But just know there is a whole other side of this thing that thinks Oud for Greatness, Baccarat Rouge, and Haltane are literally the epitome of the worst fragrances ever made. They think that they're loaded with synthetic amberwoods, that they're cheap, that they're disgusting. One guy, I was watching his video, he said he feels like he should get a Medal of Honor for having to wear Oud for Greatness for a day. And it's like one of the most disgusting, volatile things ever. And at the same time, he's wearing stuff and praising stuff like vintage Koros. And to me, there's a disconnect there. And it's a topic I thought I'd bring up to you guys because I think it's interesting. And also, I think when discussing things like Haltane, it's important to give the other side a voice in this. Where I'm at with it is, yes, of course, Koros smells more natural. Of course, the night smells more natural, or like Rojas, or like other Frederic Malls. Of course they do, but you not only do you really pay for that, but also there's just like this practical application mindset that matters to me. Like, there are fragrances I wear for myself, and there are fragrances I wear for other people. And Haltane fits more in that I wear for other people. It's more synthetic. It's one of those ones I'm not sitting there sniffing my wrist all day and enjoying the complex nuances and the artistic nature of it. It's more like I spray it on, I smell good. And one of the things I really want to bring up with Haltane is people say like this is super synthetic. And I fell into that groupthink, but spending time with this, I was like, does it really? Is it really super synthetic? Like over the top category 10 synthetic? And for me, no. Maybe my nose is broken. Maybe I'm not like the king of smelling and detecting synthetic notes. But spending time with this, I was like, this doesn't smell like so synthetic I'm gonna throw up from spraying this on. Like, it's not like that deep for me. It actually smells pretty natural to me. Is it as natural as like a $2,000 Frederick Mall? No, it's not. Big shock. But at the same time, it does smell reasonably decently natural to me, like the wood notes and everything, and the amber woods or whatever they like to call them. It's also worth noting that if you spray this on and you have no tolerance to it at all and you're sniffing your wrist over and over again, this is a very strong fragrance that can like just overwhelm your olfactory system. So what I'm trying to get at here is at a distance, smelling this off somebody in a light dose is different than spraying it on, sniffing your arm. And the reason I say that is my friend put this on and smelling it, how it played out in the air was a different experience, and it smelled even more natural. Also, over the 7 days, as I became more and more nose blind to this, it started smelling more and more natural, probably because it wasn't overwhelming my olfactory system. And I could get really into the groupthink and say, oh, it's synthetic, I belong to the niche tribe, accept me. But the reality is that's just not my personal feelings. Like, I feel like this smells pretty natural, smells great, it's really long lasting, it's very versatile and wearable. I overall think of this as a great fragrance. And this is a lot of rambling for a review. And I wouldn't do this often, but I felt like I should address these things for somebody who's interested in this fragrance. Should you try it out? Absolutely. I do think it's one of those ones at discounter prices. I think it's a good value. You get 125 milliliter, and I sprayed 4 sprays, but really you only need 3 at most. So this would last you like a really long time. It's wearable year round. I consider it classy. I don't think it's super synthetic balm. I think it's really actually quite nice and well made. I think it is one of the ones worth trying. It doesn't really fit in with the catalog of Parfum de Marly either. Like, I feel like this is a more mature, classy, grown man kind of scent. So this might not play as well in the 20s crowd as it would the 30s and up crowd. But I appreciate that Parfums de Marly stepped out of their usual stuff that they make and made something like this. I feel like this is grown and classy, kind of fits in with the Green Irish Tweed, Dior Homme Intense, and that whole category, or like Gentle Fluidity Silver, that whole classy, clean category. That's where I place Haltane. So I kind of mentioned the vibe of Haltane, but I'm going to reiterate it. This just reminds me of like a beige sports jacket. Like, it feels like that. Like, is it more suitable in cooler weather? Sure. But you could actually pull it off really well in the spring. You could pull it off in a casual situation, in a formal situation. It does have that vibe of being like lightly formal leaning, but not so much. It almost is like a beige sports jacket and a t-shirt. Like, that's the wardrobe I would place to give you a picture of where my mind goes and how I feel when I wear Haltane. It's classy, casual, and I think it's really well done. It doesn't really give me a super Middle Eastern vibe, but it does somewhat with that saffron sweetness and that oud accord, but it's not so overwhelming Middle Eastern to me. It doesn't really put me in that headspace of being in the Middle East. This is a very Western fragrance, very consumable, palatable, very fresh, and I think it's a vibe that I really personally enjoy.
Up next, we have Haltane. Okay. My initial thought is like powdery and sweet. Powdery and sweet, almost like a baby powder cotton candy infusion. It smells great. I think this should be like a bedtime fragrance, like going to bed, just shower, wearing this. It's very calming and very soothing. She agrees. I don't know. I think this is actually like suitable for all ages, like young to mature. It is not the most masculine thing out there, but it definitely leans towards the masculine side. And because of that ambiguity, kind of, I'm going to give it a 6 because I feel like certain women could get away with wearing it. It's good. It's very nice. Very spicy too. Like powdery sweet and now it's spicy. Very good.
The dry down.
To me, the dry down kind of stays almost the same as the opening. The same mix.